Did you really come here, you subcontractor? This place is too fancy for poor folks like you. Get out of here.
We received an invitation to David's wedding, but shockingly, there was no seat for me. David often harasses employees of Johnson Parts Manufacturing, but I am the one who is in charge of dealing with David and bears the brunt. So I had a feeling I might be targeted at this wedding. However, I never expected to be invited only to be told to leave. But if he thinks he can rely on his position and go too far with his harassment, I have a plan. If there's no seat for me, there's no need to stay at this wedding I didn't even want to attend in the first place. All right, let's go. It seems David wants us to leave.
Yes.
I called out to my employees, and we left the venue. David, looking shocked, tried to stop us, but we ignored him. If we're told to leave, why should we stay here? Later, David and Brian came to Johnson Parts Manufacturing to confront us for embarrassing them at the wedding. However, David didn't realize that he was the one being cornered in this meeting room. It's time for him to apologize for all his past misconduct. I'm Robert, 53 years old. I used to be the head of the sales department at Johnson Parts Manufacturing, a company that makes components for car production. I was pretty good at my job and well liked by my subordinates and the company president. However, since we were essentially a subsidiary, we had no choice but to comply with the main contractor. So today, as usual, I'm heading to the rough-mannered main contractor with a sigh.
Even though you're a subcontractor, you're getting quite cocky. Do you know who's giving you work? Show some more sincerity.
It's David, the manager at Johnson Motors, yelling that during our business meeting. Johnson Motors manufactures cars, and Johnson Parts Manufacturing supplies the necessary components. In other words, David is the main contractor, and I'm the subcontractor. With this kind of hierarchy, David always approaches me in a high-handed manner whenever we discuss business. If we lower the price any further, the quality of the parts will decrease and affect the quality of the cars. Therefore, it's difficult to reduce the price.
Subsidiaries really are just second-rate. With all your poor employees, you probably can't even think straight. We're unlucky to have to deal with a company like yours.
It's true that Johnson Parts Manufacturing is a subsidiary, and our employees' salaries are lower compared to those at Johnson Motors. However, assuming that our employees are all poor or not smart is wrong. The current price is already the result of repeated trial and error within the company to lower it as much as possible. It's sufficiently low, and there's no reason to be pressured into reducing it further.
There's no obligation for us to match your standards. Find a way to manufacture cheaper and contribute to our profits.
But we've already verified this thoroughly and reduced the price as much as possible.
So you're okay with us cutting off the business deal? You haven't forgotten that without our orders, you have no work, right?
That's not what I meant. I'm just explaining our current situation. I want to retort so badly. But if we lose the business with Johnson Motors, our profits will take a significant hit. The company's basic policy is to maintain the relationship with their company. So, as the manager, I have no choice but to stand on the front line and somehow keep David in a good mood.
Well, fine. I'll take this back with me. But don't think this is over.
Yes. Thank you for considering it. I thanked him and left Johnson Motors. How long do we have to keep putting up with this just because we're the subcontractor? Completely exhausted, I sighed deeply as I headed home.
There's a problem.
One of the employees shouted as soon as she came in. She was holding a white envelope with a large name written in the center. Then, in a loud voice that everyone in the department could hear, she announced the devastating news.
We've received wedding invitations from David.
Then, Several other employees raised their voices in response.
I got one too.
Me too.
So, who all got invited? I went around the company asking who received an invitation. Counting them up, it turned out that about 30 employees who had worked with him were invited. Johnson Parts Manufacturing and Johnson Motors are inseparably linked. Considering that, it made sense that many of our employees were invited. I couldn't help but suspect it was some kind of harassment, but considering our future relationship, we couldn't afford to decline without reason.
David is getting married at his age? How did he even find someone?
Well, it's not like no one gets married in their late 40s. David is indeed in his late 40s. Many people give up on marriage at that age, but maybe he found someone attracted to his position as a manager rather than his age. What should we do, Mike? Earlier, when I was asking around the company about the invitations, I reported the situation to Mike, the president of Johnson Parts Manufacturing. He was working in his office but came out to join our discussion.
Considering his personality, unless someone has an unavoidable reason, it's better for everyone to attend. It'd be troublesome if he cuts off our business over a grudge.
Hearing that, the employees frowned. Many of them were probably hoping to find some excuse to skip his wedding. Attending could mean becoming a target of his harassment. And who knows what kind of ordeal we might face during the entertainment. Besides, if we don't provide above average gift money for his wedding, we'll be his target. Spending a day off at the wedding of someone you don't even like isn't worth it, no matter how fancy the meal.
We really have to go, don't we? I'll send my RSVP tonight.
This is just terrible.
Faced with this unexpected situation, the mood in the department turned completely gloomy. Dealing with David in business was already depressing, and I never thought we'd have to attend his wedding too. He always looks down on us. I can't understand why he would go out of his way to invite us to his wedding. Time flies, and soon enough, David's wedding day arrives. We put on our suits, got in the car, and headed to the wedding venue. We made sure to bring gift money in an above average amount so we wouldn't have any trouble. I chose a parking spot a bit further away and parked the car before heading to the venue. We walked through a garden filled with colorful flowers and entered through the garland-decorated entrance. The polished tile floors and chandeliers lit up the room. The dazzling interior was fitting for a wedding. The soft, elegant background music added to the sophisticated atmosphere. The venue was quite large, likely accommodating about 100 guests. Looking around, I saw that many guests had already gathered, but there was still time before the ceremony started, so David wouldn't be angry about us being late. I went to the reception and introduced myself. My name is Robert from Johnson Parts Manufacturing, and we always appreciate his business. After handing over the gift, I began looking for my table. Since I didn't see David around, I thought I'd find my seat first. So, I looked around the tables where Johnson Parts Manufacturing employees were seated, but I couldn't find my seat. What's going on? It could be a simple mistake, but I have a bad feeling about this.
Isn't that Robert?
The voice calling out to me as I stood there in confusion was David's. I looked up and responded, "David, congratulations on your wedding."
Oh, thanks.
When I greeted him, David responded with an overly smug grin. He didn't seem genuinely pleased to be celebrated at his wedding.
You looked like you were having trouble. Is something wrong?
Well, I couldn't find my seat. Where is it?
That's right. There's no seat for you.
What? Stunned by this revelation, I exclaimed in surprise. Seeing my shock, David laughed even louder and said,
Did you really come here, you subcontractor? This place is too fancy for poor folks like you. Get out of here.
I couldn't immediately grasp the meaning behind his words and felt confused. I was invited and had sent back my RSVP. Yet he was telling me to leave. I couldn't understand what he was thinking. But David, didn't you invite me?
I didn't think you'd actually come. You're supposed to know your place and decline such an invitation. I tested your manners, and you failed. I guess Johnson Parts Manufacturing is full of uneducated poor employees.
David mocked me with his twisted logic. I wanted to tell him that you were the one lacking manners, but I was so stunned by his treatment that I couldn't find the words to respond. I expected him to be inconsiderate, even at a celebratory event like a wedding. But to use his wedding for something like this, what is he thinking?
There's no seat for you. It's useless to stick around. If you've handed over your gift, your job here is done. Leave.
Employees who noticed our argument were now watching us. They seemed worried about me, as I had unfortunately caught David's attention. Even Johnson Motors employees looked somewhat concerned, indicating that David's tyranny likely extended within his own company too. I didn't know what to do at first, but being treated this way, I realized it was foolish to keep going along with it. I made up my mind and told him, "All right, let's go." It seems David wants us to leave.
Yes.
When I said this, all the employees sitting or standing around immediately got up and headed for the exit. All the employees were reluctant to attend this wedding, but they came because they had to maintain future business relations. However, since David invited us and then told us to leave, there was no point in staying. It's probably better for both sides if the Johnson Parts Manufacturing employees leave.
Honestly, I didn't want to waste my day off on a wedding like this.
David has harassed us so much. Why should we be celebrating him?
As about 30 employees walked out, all complaining loudly, everyone present, such as family members of the bride and groom and Johnson Motors employees, looked on in shock. David himself was also taken aback by their actions. He might have expected us to beg to stay, but he didn't anticipate that we would all start leaving at once. Seeing his stunned expression, I added, "The truth is, everyone is exhausted from work and not in the mood for your wedding. If there are no seats, it's actually convenient for us to leave now."
Wait, do you really think this is okay?
Why not? There are no seats, so leaving is the obvious choice. We were told to leave, so we're just doing that. It's as simple as that. Why is David so desperate to keep us here when he's the one who told us to leave? Whether it's because he's frustrated that we aren't doing what he wants, or he doesn't want a lot of empty seats at his wedding, he's clearly upset.
If you all leave, the venue will be half empty. It'll be an embarrassment for me. You know what that means for our future business, right?
You say that, but wouldn't our presence here embarrass you even more? After all, we're just poor subcontractor employees and not fit for such a grand occasion. We're honored to be invited, but we'll take our leave to avoid causing any inconvenience.
Well, that's true, but damn it, you're just full of excuses.
Honestly, I wondered if it was wise to speak this way to David, the main contractor's manager. But if he was going to harass us even at a wedding, I couldn't just stay quiet. I could foresee even more harassment during the reception activities. It might have seemed over the top to act so boldly, but I saw Mike in the distance nodding in agreement with my words. He seemed to be supporting my actions. We'll take our leave. Now we can finally relax today.
Hey, wait.
David tried to stop us, but I didn't look back and left the venue. Employees from Johnson Parts Manufacturing all walked out, leaving other guests, including those from Johnson Motors, in stunned silence. But no one tried to stop us or criticize us. They probably understood who was in the wrong in this situation. Inviting me without even having a seat prepared was truly over the line. As a result, many tables at the venue were left empty, creating a strange atmosphere. The remaining guests tried to keep the mood up, But with so many empty seats, it didn't feel like a celebration. Eventually, when I reached the parking lot, I spoke with Mike. Since we were far from the venue, David wouldn't chase us here. "I'm sorry, Mike. I just lost my temper."
It's okay. We've had concerns about David's attitude for a while. Besides, as the president, I have a duty to protect you. We have many other companies we can do business with, and if David keeps up his behavior, we'll stop dealing with Johnson Motors.
"Are you sure? They're our parent company."
Yes, I'm sure. I would have preferred to keep the business relationship, but if he continues acting like this, there's no choice. Thanks to your efforts, we've gained many other clients, so we can sustain our operations without them. What worries me more is the toll David's behavior has taken on our employees.
Mike respected my decision. Even though I was angry at David's attitude, I worried I might have overreacted. So Mike's words were a relief. Thinking about the future, I consulted with Mike. "Do you think David will try something against us?"
That's probably unavoidable. But many people witnessed what happened this time. It's clear who was in the wrong, and this might be a good chance to settle some old scores. I'll handle it. Trust me.
"Can you really do that?"
He gave us the perfect opportunity to do so.
Mike gave me a reassuring smile. I couldn't imagine what he had in mind, but he seemed to have a plan. David moved faster than I expected. After resting well on Sunday, I returned to work on Monday feeling refreshed. To my surprise, David showed up at our company.
You really pulled one over on me yesterday, Robert. You made a fool out of me.
He shouted in the entrance, calling for me. That alone wasn't too intimidating, but the problem was that he brought Johnson Motors president, Brian, with him. Having two powerful figures show up was overwhelming, and our receptionist looked troubled dealing with them.
Bring Robert out. He's the cause of all this. You're not hiding him, are you?
I might have gone too far, but I didn't expect David to bring Brian along, and our employees were shocked. The fact that they came together showed how serious Johnson Motors was. They were undoubtedly furious about what happened at the wedding.
Don't forget that you're just a subcontractor. I'll cut off business with your company and crush you. Remember who's been giving you work all this time.
Hearing David's angry shouts from the entrance, I sighed. He probably wouldn't calm down unless I faced him. After informing Mike about their visit, I went to meet David and Brian. I escorted them to the meeting room. Mike, having received my report, joined us there.
You know why I'm here. I expect your apology for all of you walking out of my wedding.
David sat on the sofa, kicking the table to intimidate us.
Boycotting my wedding and leaving huge empty spaces in the venue ruined the atmosphere. You understand that this is unforgivable and grounds for cutting off our business, right?
He was angry, but there was a pleased smile on his face. He seemed delighted to have found the perfect opportunity to corner us. However, he didn't realize that he was actually the one cornered in this situation. The meeting room had only one exit, no matter how dire the situation became for him. There was no escaping. It was time for him to apologize for his previous misconduct.
Come on, Brian, tell them.
Actually, I need to apologize. David was in the wrong. I'm sorry.
Instead of blaming us, Brian apologized. David was stunned by this action, which was completely different from what he had expected.
What?
David must have thought that he could start blaming Johnson Parts Manufacturing, eventually cut ties, and bankrupt us. However, with Brian starting to apologize, things were heading in a completely different direction from what David had planned.
Brian, what's going on? We're supposed to teach these subcontractors a lesson for ruining my wedding and embarrassing us, right?
Be quiet. Do you even realize what you've done all this time? And then at your wedding, despite being the groom, you acted so rudely.
Brian raised his eyebrows and reprimanded David. What was about to begin wasn't an accusation against Johnson Parts Manufacturing, but an apology from Johnson Motors for David's continuous misconduct. And the only one unaware of this was David. Brian sighed heavily, looking exasperated.
I didn't know his true nature, but I never imagined he was doing such things behind my back. I also heard from Mike. Are you out of your mind, persistently harassing a business partner?
What are you talking about? We're supposed to be discussing Robert's disrespect, right?
You're the only one who thinks that, David, I said, looking at David, who still didn't understand this situation. David looked up, stunned. We're all here to reach a common understanding about how to deal with you between our two companies.
What? Then why did Brian lie about holding Johnson Parts Manufacturing accountable?
To ensure you would come here, of course. If I had told you we were discussing your behavior, would you have come?
Well,
Of course, he wouldn't have. That's why no one told David the real purpose of today's meeting. Hearing the two presidents' words, David realized he had been set up and stood there in stunned silence. It was clear they had coordinated their actions and come here together. I wasn't part of their initial conversation, but they likely contacted each other and planned this after the wedding. Brian had attended the wedding and witnessed David's outrageous behavior, so their strategy meeting went smoothly.
I've already informed Brian about your constant rude behavior toward our company. We tolerated it because you were the main contractor, but you've treated our employees very poorly.
Seeing your conduct at the wedding, I had no choice but to accept it. I used to think you treated everyone respectfully, but it turns out you were just hiding your inappropriate behavior.
Having his misconduct thoroughly exposed, David trembled with frustration. He had planned to corner Johnson Parts Manufacturing, never imagining he would be reprimanded by both presidents. But David wasn't about to back down without a fight.
I'm not the bad guy here. We're supposed to be talking about Johnson Parts Manufacturing today. I invited them to my wedding, and they left without notice, leaving the venue half empty. It was a disaster for our reputation, and the atmosphere was ruined.
And whose fault do you think that was? Own up to your actions. You invited them and then called them poor and didn't provide seats. That's unacceptable. We can't do business with someone like you. Even a rookie knows better than to insult clients and lose business over it.
As Brian's anger flared, David recoiled in fear. Watching David's pitiful state, Brian spoke.
Mike, I'll be firing David after this. Will that be acceptable? Our company can't survive without doing business with you.
We're fine with that condition. Your employees have generally treated us well. We'd definitely like to continue our partnership on that basis.
If David was gone, I had no issue continuing business with Johnson Motors. The presidents were in agreement, but David, listening beside them, was clearly not.
What? How can this be? We have plenty of other clients. It's outrageous to fire me and continue working with Johnson Parts Manufacturing. Are you choosing them over me?
Do you even realize how rude your behavior has been? Insulting our partners is unacceptable. Moreover, our cars use special parts that only Johnson Parts Manufacturing can produce. If we ask another company to make them, they'll either charge us a fortune or turn us away. Yet you suggest we can just easily find another supplier?
No way.
David hadn't realized how valuable the parts Johnson Parts Manufacturing supplied were, and his face turned pale. He was supposed to teach us a lesson, but he's finally starting to realize that he's the one being cornered. However, he still didn't give up.
No, this is absolutely wrong. These people are just poor subcontractors. Firing me, the manager, and choosing them is ridiculous, Brian. If you're calling me rude, they're just as bad. They boycotted my wedding.
So we've been saying it's your fault.
At that moment, A woman entered the meeting room, responding to David's stubborn words. All eyes turned to her.
Emily.
The person who entered the room was Emily. She was David's bride. David's face turned pale, realizing she might have heard everything. Brian explained to him, who was still frozen in shock.
She's been listening from the next room. She wanted to know the truth about why the wedding turned into such a disaster. I invited her here, and she agreed to come.
Knowing David's true nature, she was likely feeling a whirlwind of emotions inside. Emily was trembling, trying to suppress the surge of emotions within her.
Emily, it's not what it looks like.
What do you mean it's not?
Her voice was low and filled with anger.
I wondered why our wedding, which should have been a happy occasion, turned out like that. Why were there so many absentees at our once-in-a-lifetime special day? When I asked, you told me, Johnson Parts Manufacturing did it to spite me. I'll make sure they pay for this, right?
That's right. That's why I came here today.
But the employees from Johnson Motors told me the truth, that you were the one harassing the employees of Johnson Parts Manufacturing.
What?
It seemed that many employees at Johnson Motors couldn't stand David's tyranny any longer. So they secretly informed Emily of his misdeeds, hoping he would finally face the consequences.
I didn't know who was telling the truth or who ruined the wedding, so I came here to find out. After listening to everything, I finally understand.
Emily glared at David.
If you weren't at fault, I thought we could still get married and be happy, despite what happened at our wedding. But it's completely different from what you told me. You were the one who told them to leave? I can't believe it.
It's not like that. There was a misunderstanding.
What kind of misunderstanding makes everyone leave? You clearly told them to go.
Still furious, Emily continued.
And I hear you've been looking down on and harassing your business partners instead of considering them? At your age, acting like a bully because of your position is pathetic. You're shameless.
That's because they're subcontractors. I'm in a higher position than them. So it's only natural for me to make demands on them.
Don't try to dress up your bullying as making demands. You weren't giving reasonable instructions. What you were doing was pure tyranny.
She continued her tirade.
And you kept your previous marriage a secret from me. Your parents begged me to marry you, saying this was your last chance.
What are you talking about?
That's why you wanted to delay the official registration, right? Once I saw the paperwork, I'd know you were divorced. You thought once the ceremony was over, I wouldn't be able to back out. Don't take me for a fool.
A shocking truth was revealed from her words. It seemed David had been divorced before. Considering he was nearly 50 and his personality, it was no surprise that he had a history of divorce.
I heard the reason you divorced your previous wife was because of your condescending attitude towards her. So why haven't you changed that behavior with your business partners? After we got married, you'd treat me the same way, wouldn't you? I know we won't be happy, so I can't stay with someone as rude as you.
Wait, Emily.
David tried to plead with Emily, but she turned away and left the room.
I absolutely will not marry you. I've already told both our parents that I'm not going through with it, and I'll be billing you for all the wedding expenses.
It's not like that. Please listen to me, Emily.
David reached out, but Emily didn't look back. She had completely lost her affection for him and walked away. At nearly 50, he had found his last chance at marriage. But because of his arrogant behavior, he let that precious opportunity slip away. I exchanged a glance with Mike. We had said everything that needed to be said. With the appropriate measures taken, our issues with David would be fully resolved. As discussed with Brian, David was fired. With him gone, Johnson Motors became a much more pleasant place to work, and it became easier to do business with them. Our relationship with their company would only grow stronger, leading to mutually beneficial transactions. David's parents were already aware that Emily had left him, and that it was his own fault. Still, he continued to make excuses instead of reflecting on his actions, which led to his parents disowning him. As a result, he had to cover the nearly $80,000 wedding expenses on his own. He hadn't saved much to begin with, so the wedding expenses wiped out his savings. While looking for a new job to cover his living expenses, his bad reputation in the industry made it difficult to find employment. He ended up taking a part-time job at a restaurant, where his 2 divorces were discovered, and he was mocked by younger coworkers. I think that dealing with a variety of customers in such an environment might help curb his arrogance a bit.
It's finally settled, Robert.
Yes, thank you. If you hadn't talked to Brian, I don't think things would have gone this smoothly. In the now peaceful office of Johnson Parts Manufacturing, I spoke with Mike. The employees, who had been fed up with David's harassment, now enjoyed a much lighter atmosphere without that worry. While I had been apprehensive when invited to the wedding, it turned out to be a good opportunity to teach David a lesson.
You've been doing a great job with sales. I'll be reviewing your salary. Keep up your good work.
Really? Thank you so much. Mike has always supported me. I'm glad to work at a company with a president like him. I plan to continue working hard as the manager at Johnson Parts Manufacturing, contributing to the company and repaying Mike for his kindness.